Question 7 part 1 is a nice standard question. Express 66 as a product of its prime factors, so 66 at the top of your tree. Always start with 2 first as a prime number because it's easiest, it's the smallest, most people know how to half. 66 divided by 2 is 33. Not a prime number because I can divide it by 3. I'm not going to use 2 this time because I can't half that without getting a decimal. But 3 is a prime number. 33 divided by 3 is 11. 11 is a prime number. So, as a product of prime factors, it's just 2 times 3 times 11. Part B, I've got 132 squared. Now, it's no coincidence that 66 doubled is 132. 132 squared just means 132 times 132. But I know that 132 is 2 lots of 66. So I'm going to do 2 lots of 66 times by 2 lots of 66. But 66 from the last question I know is 2 times 3 times 11. So instead I'm going to have 2 times 3 times 11 multiplied by 2 times 3, times 2 times 3 times 11. So this 2 is here, 66 is these 3 bits here, this times 2 is here, and 66 is in these 3 again. Now that's okay, but you're going to lose one of these marks here because you can rewrite this. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 2's. So that's 2 to the power of 4. You've got 1, 2, 3's. So that's 2 to the power of 3. And 2 11's. Sorry, that should have been 3 to the power of 2. Because you've got 2 3's. Sorry about that. And this one, you've got 11, but you've got 2 of them. You could do it the long way, working out what 132 squared is, and then doing a factor tree like this one. But this method is much quicker. Okay, so at first, because of all the probabilities in here, your reaction is this must be a tree diagram question. But actually, it's really a solving equations question. A bag contains red, yellow and blue discs. The probability of drawing a red disc is a half. So red, the probability of red, that's just shorthand for probability, is a half. The probability of yellow is x. And the probability of blue is 4x. Now probabilities, if they're all the things that can happen, all of this has to add up to 1. Because if something is definitely going to happen, the total probability is 1. So one of these 3 things is going to happen, so they have to add up to 1. So that means a half plus x plus 4x is going to make 1. That means a half plus 5x is going to make 1. Which means that 5x must be worth a half, because a half plus a half makes 1. So all I have to do is divide a half by 5. Now if I'm honest, the easiest way I know to do this, 5x is 0.5. So 1x is that divided by 5, which is 0.1. You can also divide a fraction by dividing the bottom number. So if you're dividing by 5, you're going to divide by 5 down here. So you get a tenth. And a tenth is the same as 0.1. I find this method easier. You must be careful because what they've asked for is the probability that it be a blue disc. And the probability that it will be a blue disc is 4x's. So you must make sure that you finish off by doing 4 times 0.1, which is 0.4. So, question 9 starts a fairly standard page of algebra. If you know all your rules, you'll know how to do this. A to the power of 5 divided by a to the power of 3. You just subtract the powers. So that's a to the power of 2. This one, you're going to multiply the numbers. So 2 times 3 is 6. X squared times x squared. If you add the powers, 2 and 2 make 4. You've got a y squared that you can't simplify it with anything else, so that's on its own. Expand and simplify, it's a double bracket. So I've got x plus 3 times x plus 7 x times x is x squared, x times positive 3 is positive 3x, positive 7 times x is positive 7x, and 7 times 3, both positive, is positive 21. You can add these two in the middle because they're both x's, and that makes 10x. So altogether you've got x squared plus 10x plus 21. To factorise this part, you've got to look at what they've got in common. They've both got a p in, so I'm going to be able to do something with p, and they've both got a factor, they've both got factors of 3, because 3 goes into 3 and 3 goes into 12. So that's going to be what's at the front of my bracket. I've got 3p. To make 3p q, I'm just going to need a q. I've got a minus, and this one's a positive, so I'm going to have a minus there to make that work. To get 12, when I've got 3, I'm going to need 4, because 3 times 4 is 12. I've got p, but I want p squared, so I'm going to have to put another p, and that's that done. Okay, so this is a slightly trickier factorising question because you've got a coefficient, a number, in front of the squared term. But there are kind of two main ways of going about this. Some of you will have learnt Crystal's method, or the AC method, where you multiply these two numbers together, which makes 9, just 3 and 3. And you're therefore looking for numbers that multiply to make 9, which is 9 and 1 or 3 and 3, but are going to get you minus 10. Now the only way to get minus 10 but get a positive 9 is for both of them to be negative. Now obviously this one is the one that makes minus 10. So I rewrite it as 3y squared minus 9y minus, 1y but just y, and plus 3. I then factorise this bit. I can take a 3 out and a y out. Leave me with y minus 3. And I can do this side. Now I want to have y minus 3, otherwise it doesn't work. So I'm going to have a minus 1 here, because minus times y is minus y, and minus 1 times minus 3 is plus 3. That means that one of my brackets is y minus 3, and the other one is 3y minus 1. If you're not confident with that method, the other way you can do it is to think using your grid. You know you need to end up with 3y squared, and you know you need to end up with 3. 3y squared can only come from having a 3 here and a 1 here. And y squared can only come from having a y and a y. Obviously you don't really need that one, just put it there so you can see. Now 3 can only come from either 3 or 1 being here, or 3 or 1 being here. So all we need to do is figure out which way around they go. Now if I put 1 here and 3 here, so it'd be y, so 1y and 3y. It must have come from, 1y here and 3y here. When I multiply, not 1y and 3y, 1 and 3. 1 times 3y is 3y, and y times 3 is 3y. But that only makes 6y, and it's not minus 10. So it's going to have to be minus 9 here, minus 3 here, and minus 1 here, because then I get 3y times minus 3 is minus 9y, and minus 9 times, y times minus 1 is minus 1y, such as minus y, and minus 3 times minus 1 gets me plus 3. So my brackets in the same way are y minus 3 and 3y minus 1. This way is easier because it's a set method that works. This one involves quite a lot of thinking, and you have to mess around with the numbers until you find what works. It's up to you which way you prefer. Because they've said for the next part hence or otherwise, it's basically suggesting that the easiest way to do it is to use something from here. So the fact that the answer to the last one was 3y minus 1 and y minus 3 is obviously important. If you look at that one, it's just the same thing, but instead of where y is in this expression, they've put x plus 2 in that one. So basically y is equal to x plus 2. So where before our answer was 3y minus 1 and y minus 3, we're going to have 3 lots of x plus 2 take away 1 times by x plus 2 take away 3. We then just have to simplify this. This bracket here becomes 3x plus 6, but we've still got minus 1. And this becomes x plus 2 minus 3, so 2 minus 3 is minus 1. This bracket plus 6 take away 1 is 5. And so the factorised version is that. Definitely the trickiest part on this page.